Hello, and welcome to the Ohio University Career and Leadership Development Center's Understanding Emotional Intelligence virtual workshop. Have you ever overreacted to a situation or hurt someone's feelings unintentionally? Emotional intelligence describes the ability, capacity, and skill to identify, assess, and manage your emotions in any given situation. Concluding this workshop, you will learn ways to use your intelligence to respond to emotional stimuli appropriately in order to build relationships and maintain a positive image of self. You will also understand how to effectively reflect on your emotions and reactions in order to become more self-aware and emotionally intelligent. In the CLDC, we house our leadership training in the social change model of leadership because it was created with the college undergraduate in mind. According to this leadership theory, the keys to creating positive social change is by working collaboratively, understanding your and your group's values, and always being considerate of how you, your group, and your community will be involved in the change you plan to lead. According to the social change model of leadership, individual and group values play a role in emotional intelligence. Individual values are a driving force in how you react with others and how to overcome obstacles when it comes to empathy. Knowing yourself is the most important tool in beginning the journey of understanding others. Additionally, group values can help you assess how others may react to you in any given situation. This takes time to acquire, and practice is necessary. You may stumble a bit while you are learning group values and appropriate ways to respond. Don't worry though, no one is perfect. Emotional intelligence, or EQ, is managing feelings so that they are expressed appropriately and effectively, enabling people to work together smoothly towards their common goals. I know we can all think of moments in time when we may have over or underreacted to a situation and reflected on what we would have done differently. Reflection can be the ultimate key to creating strong emotional intelligence. It's important to know how far you have come and spend a little time reflecting on your emotional reactions to learn from your overreactions or inappropriate responses. Emotions are responses to stimuli. Your individual values help you assess how you react to any given situation. There is a natural emotional response to stimuli, but you need the ability to take the next step and make a rational decision about how you are going to react. Our minds work in two distinct ways, through the emotional mind and the rational mind. The emotional mind is impulsive, powerful, and sometimes illogical. For example, knowing something is right in your heart is an example of the emotional mind taking over the rational mind. The rational mind is a mode of comprehension that is more prominent in awareness, thoughtfulness, and has the ability to ponder and reflect. The emotional and rational mind need to balance each other out. A good example of an emotional response can be seen when a child drops his ice cream cone and cries, but the parent soothes him, and it's not worth crying over, and they will just get a new one or get something different. Next time this same scenario might happen, the child will have slowly learned not to become overly emotional about a dropped ice cream cone and knows that everything will be okay. It takes practice and experience to become more emotionally intelligent for all humans throughout their developing lives. The emotional mind is impulsive, powerful, and sometimes illogical. Can you think of a time when your emotional mind took over? During this moment of reflection, you can start the process of enacting your rational mind so that it kicks in more regularly when your emotions normally get to the better of you. The rational mind is aware, thoughtful, and able to ponder and reflect. Good examples of situations where the rational mind is usually easier to tap into are after a good meal, when hanging out with good friends, sitting quietly and reading, or just paying attention to your body and breath. Next, we are going to talk about some of the ingredients that are needed when trying to tap into the rational mind during a stressful situation. The two things you need for sound emotional intelligence and to stay focused in the rational mind is personal competence and social competence. Let's break these concepts down a little bit. Personal competence includes two major components: self-awareness and self-management. Self-awareness is the capacity to identify your emotions and reactions, understand their effect on you, and recognize your implicit bias. It can take a lifetime to truly become self-aware, and no one is really knowledgeable of self because we are always evolving. You need lots of practice in reflective thought to become truly self-aware. While learning about yourself and practicing reflective thought, it's important to recognize the implicit biases that you have. Implicit biases are attitudes or stereotypes that affect our understanding, actions, and decisions in an unconscious manner. Implicit biases can be both positive and negative, but regardless, can be difficult to unlearn without conscious practice. For this reason, it is important to be self-aware of the implicit biases you possess and work towards a healthy understanding of them. The second major component of personal competence is self-management. Self-management is the ability to recognize one's emotions in real time and address them appropriately. Here it is not only important to understand yourself internally, but also how you will react to situations externally without getting out of control. Let's spend some time in a self-reflective activity. For this activity, you will be using one of the worksheets provided with this virtual workshop. The title of this workshop is Emotional Intelligence, and the worksheet's title is Personal Competence. Let's reflect on this past weekend. I want you to think about a few instances or situations where your emotions may have gotten the better of you, or a moment when you may have overreacted or reacted negatively to a situation. Once you have that moment in your mind, press pause on this video and take the next 5 minutes to fill out this worksheet. What was it like to think through the situations you faced this past weekend? What are ways you think you can start reflecting on your reactions outside of using this worksheet in the future? For most people, simply taking a few deep breaths can get you into a state of rational thinking before reacting negatively to a situation. Next time you feel one of these moments coming on, take a step back, take a few deep breaths, and allow yourself to think quietly. Social competence is the second major component to good emotional intelligence. Similar to personal competence, social competence includes two major components itself: social awareness and relationship management. Social awareness is the ability to recognize and understand the emotions of others through both verbal and nonverbal communication. The picture on this slide represents what we see when we look at others, and that recognizing what other people's nonverbal behaviors are is just as important as reflecting on your own reactions to these behaviors. But sometimes we can't always know how people feel based on their external body language or the things that they say or write. In the next activity, you will be reflecting on a social construct and communication tool that is a part of your lives every day: text messages. In the world of text messaging, ask yourself, how can you really know what emotions are being conveyed in a text from someone? For this activity, you will be using the other worksheet provided with this virtual workshop. The title of this worksheet is Social Awareness and Text Messaging. Reflect on the following text messages and their content that are listed on the worksheet. Think about the emotions that these messages convey if they were sent from someone who is very important in your life. This could be a message from a family member or close friend. Go through each of the messages and think about what this text might mean if coming from this person you have identified. Press pause on this video and take the next 5 minutes to fill out the rest of this worksheet. Have you gotten messages like this before? How did they make you feel? What if these were messages from someone you barely know, or an acquaintance, or a faculty member or professor, or a manager or a colleague from work? How would this change your reaction to these messages? Social constructs play a large role in the way we react or feel about someone's communication, and text messaging can be easily misunderstood when there is no one there to face you, or hear their voice, or see their body language. As you grow in your social awareness, by reflecting on these questions, you will start to think more critically and clearly about your reaction to text messages or other social constructs you face every day in our world. But you do have to spend time reflecting before reacting. The final component of social competence is relationship management. Relationship management is the act of establishing and sustaining relationships. Spend a few minutes thinking about some of the best and worst relationships you've had in the past. What made the good relationships good, and what made the bad relationships so much worse? If you want to spend time reflecting on this more deeply, press pause on this video and quickly make a best and worst list on a sheet of scrap paper. Think of words or phrases that would be ideal labels for each of these columns. For example, the best column may have words like trustworthy or loyal, whereas the worst column may have words like manipulative and selfish. We want to think through ways to maintain those best relationships using emotional intelligence techniques. Ways to maintain the best relationships can be hard, but they are worth it in the end. With every best relationship, you should be able to be honest with yourself and that person about your feelings. You should have the ability to spend time on maintaining regular communication, whether virtual or in person. If you are in a good relationship, you should be able to take time to be available for them, as well as them be available to you. And lastly, a good relationship can withstand some conflict. Don't avoid conflict because it's healthy and it is never as bad as you think it will be. Let's take a few seconds to review what we discussed today in this workshop. Emotional intelligence takes practice and reflection on your personal and social competence. Within personal competence, you want to spend time building your self-awareness as well as your self-management in order to react appropriately when the time comes. Also, keep in mind the components of social competence. As humans, we are social beings and require time with one another to grow in this area of emotional intelligence. Social awareness and relationship management are essential components for strong social competence. But just like everything we have discussed today, reflection is at the core of learning and growing in these areas of emotional intelligence. I hope you have a better idea of what it takes to be emotionally intelligent after this workshop today. And remember, you can use this knowledge for good or for evil. Someone with a strong emotional intelligence can also recognize inappropriate ways to use it to manipulate or convince people to do things that are not emotionally intelligent. In the CLDC, we hope this workshop will aid in making sure you use your emotional intelligence for good instead of evil. As a reminder, if you would like to speak with a coach in the CLDC to virtually discuss your career and leadership goals and experiences, we are available to have these discussions with you in a 30-minute session. You can schedule these appointments using the Handshake platform. You can log into Handshake at ohio.joinhandshake.com. Once logged in with your Ohio University email and password, click on Career Center on the top bar of the Handshake homepage, and then click on Appointments. We look forward to hearing from you soon, and go Bobcats!